Gold investors just never get any fun because if the world is doing great, gold is in the dumps. And if gold is doing great, the world is in the dumps. And today is no exception. As we can see, gold is trading up here at all-time highs above the highest close for the gold price ever. It's currently at $2,067 per ounce. And so the question is, why? Because obviously the main reasons are there, right? The geopolitical tensions, inflation concerns, but there is another big reason that came out over the weekend, and then another one on top of that, basically restricting the amount of gold that will be able to make it out of Russia into the rest of the world. That will cause a supply crunch with gold, which is very good for the gold price. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, guys, I'm going to spend 1 minute before I talk about gold asking for some help from my friend Peter. I've known Peter for probably over 15 years. He's one of my oldest friends. When actually I was in his wedding, he was in my wedding on the day that he got married. That was the day I went on my first date with my wife. And so just a couple of days ago on Saturday, my friend Peter, in the middle of the night, he had a seizure. His wife woke up to him having a seizure, and so she called 911. They take him in, and within just a couple of hours, they found a large brain tumor. They've got two kids. Daxton is 5, and Rhett is 3. And so they found this brain tumor, and they had to do a couple exams and look into it a little bit more to see, hey, should they just start chemo? Should they take it out? And they were planning on taking it out in like a week. Well, something changed, and I don't know all the details, but literally as I record this, about 35 minutes ago, he went into surgery. They said, we need to take this out now. So right now he's under their inside of his brain trying to take this tumor out. And to make matters worse, as if, I know there's never a good time for something like this to happen, but he had just moved on to a new job to moved into a welding position, and he had given up a job that, he had health insurance, and he was going out, learning a new skill, making a big change for his life. And literally the day that he quit and lost his health insurance, this happened. So I know that they're going to, for a long time, need a lot of help. Even if he has a full recovery here and everything works out fine, this is going to be, especially financially, very difficult for the family. So if you have a few bucks, I know this is GoFundMe, and I know everybody doesn't like GoFundMe anymore. I just found out they have an option there where you can give all the money or donate a little bit extra to contribute to the actual GoFundMe, the company. And so you don't have to do that at all. And if you really still don't want to give through GoFundMe, I'm going to put his cash tag for the Cash App in the description below as well. That way, if you want to give him cash or stocks or Bitcoin through the Cash App, you can do that, or just give through GoFundMe. Again, not asking for anything crazy, but I know that they're hurting right now, and they're going to be for a long time. So anything you can throw their way, I would really appreciate it, and I know that they need it a lot. So thank you. All right, now let's talk about gold. Take a look at this article from Reuters. The London Bullion Market bars Russian gold refineries. So this is crazy. Just a day, maybe 2 days ago, LBMA banned 6 Russian precious metals refiners. So this is 6 companies where they take gold that's just been taken out of the ground. It's not refined. They refine it into bars and send it to LBMA. They've just been banned from the LBMA. That means that they will no longer be able to get their gold and silver into the LBMA. That is the world's largest gold market, largest silver market. And obviously everybody's trying to hit Russia from every single angle right now. So LBMA didn't give a reason for the suspension. Obviously everybody knows they're trying to, stop them from invading Ukraine and hit them, with anything that they have. Even companies like Apple, private companies, are pulling their business out of Russia. And so what we're seeing here, though, this is something that is like, some of these attempts to inflict pain on Russia might be short-term painful, but long-term, they're really, really at high risk of backfiring. Like the sanctions, right? So short-term, inflicting a lot of pain on Russia. Long term, now you've created the incentive for the entire world to get off the dollar. With this gold here, short term, you inflict some pain because Russia has a ton of gold. And if you stop one of their main avenues from being able to turn that gold into cash to do other business around the world, well, then that inflicts some pain. But look what it's doing to the gold price. It's up at all-time highs. It just today is up over 3% here as I'm recording this. And they have more gold than anyone. I think China might have more gold. I think India might have more gold per capita. That's spread around the people. I think, though, as a percent of GDP, especially as a percent of debt, Russia's gold position is it's not even close. And so maybe short term, this hurts them a little bit, but it's making all of their holdings worth so much more. Just like if we complete the sanctions and say, okay, there's talk that Europe is saying, hey, we're going to, sanction everything now, even energy, oil and gas, which would be very painful for Europe. Even if they do that, what is that going to do to the price? This is a supply and demand thing. All you're doing is cutting off supply. So that's why we're seeing oil at 123. This could push oil up way higher. And what is the one thing that Russia produces? Oil. What is the one thing that they have on their balance sheet in Russia? Gold. And so if you restrict their supply, which could be a big supply, like if Russia has to go into the market and just sell gold and maybe any silver that they have, that could push prices of gold down because they have to rely on that, right? But if they can't, then that's going to do the opposite. And when you have LBMA doing it, which their vaults are already very high risk of running out, like you talk about a short squeeze in silver, short squeeze in gold is arguably would have a much more powerful effect because the paper markets on gold are much larger. And so if you stop the ability for LBMA, which already has trouble sourcing gold, to get it from Russia, look at how much they produce. 9% of the total mined worldwide gold comes from Russia. That's 330 tons of gold every single year. And silver as well, 5% of the global mine supply comes out of Russia. And so that's a massive hit to the global supply. So obviously, supply and demand, that's going to shove the price through the roof. And that was, this news broke over the weekend. And then on top of that, now we're seeing that senators in the United States are looking to lock down Russia's gold reserves because ultimately you still have an outlet. You still have an avenue to get that gold out. Just because you can't send it to the LBMA, you can send it to China, you can send it to the United States in other ways. There's, you don't have to go through the LBMA. It makes it harder, pushes the price up a little bit, which helps Russia, honestly, as long as they can still get rid of it. The price being higher helps them. So it looks like the United States is trying to jump on the bandwagon here. And because we've frozen their assets that we can, we're going to try and prevent Russia from liquidating gold. So basically, it would apply sanctions to any American entities that are knowingly transacting with or transporting gold from Russia's central bank holdings or selling gold physically or electronically in Russia. So again, this is another reason that's pushing gold up today because on top of LBMA banning those refineries, we're also now seeing additional sanctions on any companies that the United States can inflict sanctions on for doing business with Russia and allowing them to capitalize on selling their gold. Ultimately, this isn't going to do anything to them being able to get rid of their gold to the Middle East, get rid of their gold to China if they need to. I don't know how much they're going to actually be doing that because at this point, unless it's happened within the last hour, at this point, last time I checked, they're still able to sell energy. They're still able to sell gas. They're still able to sell oil. So it looks like they might be fine, but ultimately, if they're not, and if this does lock down really 9% of global gold supply and silver too, every time I talk about gold, people will say, okay, what about silver? Well, I just kind of take it as like going without being said that pretty much anything There's differences, but every time I'm talking about gold, I'm also partly talking about silver. I think the monetary value of silver is a lot less than it used to be. It's almost non-existent now. It's not a monetary metal anymore. It's an industrial metal. That could change in the future. It doesn't look like it will. It's been on that trend for at least a couple hundred years. But essentially, gold. It's only going to push it higher and higher and higher if the gold coming out of Russia dries up, because lower supply. Again, the exact same thing that's happening with oil right now. If you remove supply, all else being equal, price will go up to compensate for the consistent demand. And on top of this, now you have the situation where it reinforces gold is nobody else's liability. You can't unless you store it somewhere else. You don't rely on counterparty risk there, and so if you really want to hedge yourself against some player, whether it's a government or any third-party entity stopping you from being able to use your money, you can hold gold. It's the most liquid asset in the world, and it's been that way for over 3,000 years. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon, because when it hits the fan and push comes to shove, money piles into gold. And just as a side note, I will probably have to do a dedicated video on miners again soon, but I've said for a while now, I think, probably for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I've been saying that I think miners, gold miners, silver miners will probably be the best performing asset class of the decade. And it looks like we might be getting started now on that new upward trend there. We've had some really strong days in the miners. And of course, GDX, it's such a broad basket of miners that you're going to see a lot bigger moves out of some of the more concentrated plays there. But even something like JDX or SIL for the silver miners is going to give you some of the performance, because it's a broad basket of the miners. And you can go SILJ for the juniors, and you can go GDXJ for the gold juniors as well. So lots of pressure right now pushing up on gold. War, geopolitical tensions, allegiances changing around the world, supply getting shut off from the biggest gold market in the world that already has trouble with maintaining adequate amounts of vaulted gold, shutting off one of its suppliers. I don't want to get too excited here, because it's going to fall again. It's going to have a big red day. We're going to have massive volatility like we had just a couple of days ago here. We, opened up down here at 1905, briefly hit 1973, and then closed even lower down at 1902 before briefly touching lower at 1877. So we're going to see days like that. We're not going to have a straight line up in any asset class anytime throughout history or into the future, no matter what. It doesn't work that way. But this is possible. It breaks the paper markets. All of the many times of gold that are traded through the futures markets, through unallocated gold accounts, through rehypothecation, there are many, many, many times more ounces of gold traded each day than there are actual ounces of gold in existence. And one of the things that allows people to do is use them as a proxy, which doesn't have the same impact on the price going up. So if this causes some sort of squeeze, some sort of a rush into physical requesting of delivery because the vaults are running out type of thing, we could see a massive squeeze here. It would potentially result in a bubble, and you'd see price go up a lot and then price come down a lot as the market readjusts. Who knows how long those things could take, but it's possible. Again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm saying that something like this has the potential to be kind of the first domino that in the future we might start to see a convergence between the physical price of gold and the paper price of gold, kind of the paper markets breaking as a result of people requesting delivery and not settling for anything else. So that's what I'm watching. Really excited here. Again, gold investors never have any fun, because you always have to look at this with kind of a bittersweet attitude, understanding that the only reason this is happening is because some people, and many people, are having very bad days. But on the other hand, that's why you invest like this, at least with part of your money, so that if the world does have a bad day, you don't have to get swept in with it. You can produce or preserve your purchasing power, stay wealthy, get more wealthy, and help those around you use your wealth for good. And ultimately, the more you do that, the more people you can help. And one last thing, if you need any recommendations on services, resources that I use to buy or store gold or silver, as always, I've got them linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.